And I'm open to being wrong and incorrect and changing what I think if it serves the greater purpose and makes sense. So opening the dialogue for like, compassion, I think is the best word to use. 100%. That is my goal. That is my prayer before I hit the stage. That is my meditation. That is that's what I'm manifesting through my body language is love and acceptance. I want people to have fun and enjoy what we're doing, but I also want them to leave with a message, to take that light, if you will, and spread it because the world needs it.
We are loud and clear with Jesse of Killswitch Engage. Thank you so much for your time today. I know that this is supposed to be your time, your cooling down time or time off in between shows, and here you are doing more interviews. So I really appreciate you taking the time.
Anything to help promote, man. I'm always down for that because I appreciate getting to do this. So even if it is downtime, I'm always willing to do promotion and just talk to people about what we do because it is an honor. So there's
Awesome.
that.
Well, we thank you for that. So let's start with a serious, before we start about the Canadian shows coming up and more stuff coming down the pipe. Um, let's ask you a serious philosophical question. As a man who's spoken about his spirituality, humanity, evolution, and all these themes also coming out of the latest album, you also spent more than 20 years with Adam. Does that somehow take away your belief that humanity can, in fact, evolve?
That's funny. Um, you know, there's something amazing about Adam. There's the public side of him that people see, which makes me laugh, and he's an entertainer, and he's somebody who likes to, as the British say, take the piss out of everything.
Right.
I think there's a philosophical depth to what he does. I
Right.
think that type of behavior is necessary to shake people up, to remind people to laugh at themselves and each other. But there's also the private side of him, and he's actually a very deep person. And he's
Hmm.
very thoughtful. We've had tons of conversations about, even when I'm just writing a song, what is that about? We'll discuss philosophy, we'll discuss religion, we'll discuss like being an indoctrinated son of a preacher man like I was and my journey. And I've had some great deep conversation with him, and he's a very kind person. But I do enjoy that most people know him as just being an absolute maniac, and some would say even kind of a dickhead sometimes, but it all comes from a good place with him. And I would challenge people to sort of take a second look in the mirror, and if you're not laughing
Yeah.
at yourself, then maybe you need to start
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
life is too short to take yourself that seriously. But I love that question. That's great.
I mean, it must be weird for Adam as well to get, because like I said, I spoke to other band members before, and let's say that depending on their mood, I get different feedback on Adam at times.
Oh yeah, no,
Um,
it all depends. If you're in the middle of a tour, it's like, ugh, we're all kind of just. If you breathe wrong in the tour bus, people get annoyed. It is what it is. We're all brothers. We all love each other, but I'm sure I fatigue people too. I'm
yeah,
sort of, I walk on the bus and I have a certain air about me as well, and I'm not always down to make jokes. Sometimes I'm a little too serious for people. So we all have our flaws and sort of idiosyncrasies that can annoy
yeah, yeah,
someone.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Killswitch, a band that can make at the same time fart jokes and at the same time, you know, make people feel like your music has saved their lives, and that's an interesting idiosyncrasy to use a big word.
Yeah, I mean, dude, honestly, in that same breath, I've gone to comedy shows and watched stand-up comedy and
Hmm.
saved my life when I just needed to laugh and forget about my problems. So I think laughter is as good as medicine as prayer, meditation, and contemplation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Awesome, awesome. Now, I mean, obviously, this consequence has been out for a while. You've toured, you've played lots of shows. Um, Artists often talk about how, there's multiple identities of a song, like the way it was recorded and it was released, and then over time, by playing it live a lot, it can change. There are classics from Iron Maiden that are very different if you hear them now on their tour versus albums 40 years ago. But also audience interaction. You've had a chance now to see how these songs are being experienced by your audience. Does seeing that experience, does that change even new songs for you?
It can, yeah. I think sometimes it just doubles down on the reason why I wrote it. I guess a song that would be a good example of that is "I Believe,"
Hmm.
which is, it's definitely a more of a sing along, heartfelt song as opposed to like a metal, get in the pit and kind of, you know, throw down. But what I've noticed from playing it over and over again and seeing the reaction of people smile when that song
Right.
starts to play. People get emotional, get teary eyed. People start jumping up and down. It evokes a different reaction than a lot of our other songs do, and I found that it kind of came from a place of melancholy, if you can believe that. If you read the lyrics, it's about believing something, right? So belief takes a certain amount of effort because it's faith. It's based on what you're feeling and thinking. It's not
Hmm.
based on a fact. It's not based on someone giving you $100 bill and saying, "Here's $100 bill." It's you going, "If I do a good job, maybe I'll get paid well." Just to put it into
Right.
context, so it came from sort of a place of hope where I hope things get better. And as we played that song, it feels now like I'm in the moment of like it has happened. That song has made hope alive for me because people love it and we get to play it. And then I see people singing it back at me, and I see joy on people's faces. I see people with hope in their eyes. So that song has become sort of like a celebration.
Hmm.
And when it started out, it came from sort of a sad place of like the world is not in a good place, which it's still really isn't if you're looking at the grand scheme of, what society throws at it, what social media throws at us. But I think underneath all that, everybody wants things to get better, and it can get better if you just believe that you can be part of that solution. You can make society better by being better. It's the old saying of like, if you can't find the good in the world, be the good in the world.
Right.
So that song has become sort of an anthem of celebration, and I just can't help it. I start jumping up and down, and it feels like I'm channeling someone like Bob Marley or Joe Strummer, my heroes, into this song, and it's creating this wave of joy and
Hmm.
celebration. So that song has become something completely different, yet
Yeah.
still remains the same at its core, if that makes any sense.
Covering the truth inside us, giving in to spite.
What you're saying, like, I mean, that song is an example of that, but a lot of these themes come out across the album, and then you see people at your shows, whether they believe in a spiritual way or not, whatever their political perspective is, different backgrounds. A lot of different people come together at your shows and sing those same lyrics back to you, even if they, maybe even they interpret those lyrics in very different ways. Are Killswitch shows, and especially these ones coming up in Canada, are they proof that we might not all be as different as sometimes the internet makes us believe?
100%. And I say that, I've made a point to say it every night on stage. The biggest weapon that the powers that be, the nameless powers that be, not the people we see on social media and television, those are the puppets. I'm talking about the real Dr. Evils of this world that we don't see. Those people benefit and weaponize our separation, whether it be, what God you pray to, who you make love to, who you vote for. None of that matters to any of us. What matters is humanity. And we do have so much more, like incredible amounts of similarities as humans.
Hmm.
Our differences are very small. And it's just the focusing on those differences and weaponizing those differences to create the divide, rule, and conquer thing. It is revolutionary to be accepting, to be compassionate, to be tolerant, and hopefully open up discussions, not arguments, about our differences. I've done that personally as I travel. I've met people I don't agree with, and I don't shun them and block them and cancel them. I want to hear what they have to say, and
Right.
hopefully I can get some point across. But half the time I'm learning something from them too. Oh, that's why you think that way. It's kind of like people's interpretation of life. It's an interpretation. And I'm open to being wrong and incorrect and changing what I think if it serves the greater purpose and makes sense. So opening the dialogue for like, compassion, I think is the best word to use. 100%. That is my goal. That is my prayer before I hit the stage. That is my meditation. That is that's what I'm manifesting through my body language is love and acceptance. I want people to have fun and enjoy what we're doing, but I also want them to leave with a message, to take that light, if you will, and spread it because the world needs it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The opposite of that of what you're just describing would be outrage, not listening but yelling. But it's easier said than done, especially in this world, this social media dominated world. Do you, do you catch yourself being somewhat addicted to outrage as well? And then how do you deal with that when you recognize those signs in your own behavior?
I wouldn't say I'm addicted to it. In fact, I would even say in my younger years I avoided it, and I think that's unhealthy. I think either way, I think obsession with anger is unhealthy, but I think avoidance of anger is unhealthy too. If anything, I've learned that anger, just like any other emotion, is rooted in something, and I think the root of anger is fear. I think fear of like what might happen to me, fear of what might happen to other people. So I think the real enemy, and that ties in to be very sort of like Yoda and Star Wars, hatred. Hatred and fear are, I think hatred is rooted in fear as well. I think
Yeah.
fear is the real enemy of us. That's what creates all of these uglier emotions. So getting to the root of why you might feel that way or why you're enraged, getting to the root of it and contemplating it, walking through that anger, then you can have a perspective that can teach, a perspective that has compassion because you understand that at the root of all of us, we're people that just want to be loved. We want to be heard. We want to be understood. So again, I'm going to throw that word compassion back out there because that's what I have to do to sort of combat the anger that's in the internet. And I think there's enough people spouting hatred and anger. There's enough of that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I can relate to it, but that's not my gift, I'm not the person that can stand on the front lines, screaming at somebody because I don't like what they're doing. I'm the one going, hey, we should all figure this out together. I
Yeah.
think there needs to be more voices like that. And that's just my gift. I'm not very good at arguing and getting angry with people. I lose myself through that. And I don't like that. So I like to stay sort of centered in love and use that as my weapon to combat against whether it be anger, hatred, or fear.
People will say it's part of life. I choose to refuse to let it slide.
You talked about, I believe getting some surprising reactions from your crowd. Maybe you saw more people smile and laugh than you thought you would see when you would play this song. You've been doing this for a long time. Your songs have connected emotionally with a lot of people over the years. Do you remember at the start of this journey when you saw that or experienced that for the first time, that people were reacting very differently to a song than you had imagined?
Yeah, I think My Last Serenade would be the first one that sticks out in my head over anything because that surprised all of us. And it still surprises me that it's a song that people cite as one of their favorites,
Right.
especially from my catalog. I think anything off our Lavage's Breathing surprised all of us that people cared so deeply about that record. And it sits in a place in time, and I think that's probably why people still care so much about it. It was just, we were at the right place at the right time with the right kind of sound and the right kind of message, and we were very blessed and fortunate for that. And to this day, I can meet people who have had children that are in their teens now that say, "Hey, I was raised on My Last Serenade," and the parent will be like, "That was the first song I remember seeing it on MTV or whatever," and like
Yeah, yeah.
to hear that at my age, I just turned 48 years old, and to meet teenagers that were raised on the music and cite that as one of their favorite songs, that blows my mind. But I'll never forget, you know, I left early on that album cycle for Alive Just Breathing, but I could see it happening already.
Yeah,
That
yeah, yeah,
song
yeah.
would hit and people would lose their minds in the pit, and then when the chorus would hit, people would rush to the stage and sort of point and sing along and wanted to eagerly sing along. So I would just give the mic to people and like, wow, I guess this is catching fire.
You said, life can be hell on our tour bus, and as a 48 person, do you? I'm 42.
Not
Getting out of
far
bed is
behind
not
me.
as fresh anymore as a couple of decades ago. Are you said like, oh, I want to be in control. I don't want to lose myself in anger or what have you. So I'm preaching inclusiveness. Are you also good at recognizing on a more personal and physical perspective that you just sit your ass down? You're 48. Let's not do insert whatever's about to happen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I've definitely been in situations where I could have chose violence and I chose not to on more than one occasion. And
Oh, I
every
wasn't
time I,
necessarily saying violence though. Just
well, I'm throwing that in there because that has happened. And when I choose the peaceful route, it's always to the benefit. But I would
Mhm.
also say what's important to for longevity is knowing when to pump the brakes with, partying, drinking, whatever, all the crazy stuff I used to get into, moderation. And what's huge for me is my health, like staying in shape. I take a bicycle out with me. I go for long walks. I stretch. I do meditation and breathing, like all the boring stuff really helps a lot and keeps me in good spirits and keeps me active on stage. I feel like I'm in better shape now than I was in my 20s. I could do
Mhm.
laps around who I was in my 20s because in my 20s and 30s I was partying a lot, I was
Yeah.
drinking a lot. And now I've taken my health as priority and it's affected me mentally as well. And I think I'm a better performer now than I ever was. I feel peak right now, which is great.
Yeah. Now, I'm lucky or privileged because I'm calling from Toronto. We've seen you here a few times, but I'm also originally from Europe, and I still go to the European festivals and stuff like that. So
Yes.
I saw you at Grass Pop a million times. But on this tour, you're not just playing Toronto and Montreal and saying, "Okay, thank you, Canada, until the next time." You're doing a proper Canadian tour. A lot of places that don't get to see you every 18 months, if you will. Some people have never had a chance to see you. That's exciting for those people there. I'm sure for you as well. After all these years on the road, can you tell from an audience like this is an audience that has seen me many times versus a fresher audience? Is that very notable for you?
No, because the people who haven't seen us before, I feel like give just as much energy, maybe even more than the people who have seen us. It's hard because there'll be random nights where I'll ask who's never seen us before, and half the
Yeah.
audience will raise their hand, and we're like, "Whoa, we're still getting new fans," and that's
Right.
incredible. So it's difficult to tell, but I will say this: I feel like we've been on a roll. I feel like the audience has been super locked in. There's been very few shows where we're like, the audience was like, okay, especially on this last run with Machine Head, and it also helps having Machine Head with us on these tours. Like
Right.
such a legendary band. Um, so it's yeah, I don't really see much of a difference until I get outside and if people are hanging out near the tour bus, I always make time to talk to people if I see them. And I'm meeting tons of people who were saying, "Hey, that was my first show," not just with Killswitch, but like ever.
Yeah.
Meeting kids who are like, their first concert ever is that night, and that just blows my mind. Like, wow, I've been doing this for 30 something years, and I've been to so many shows, even before I was in a full time band, and
Right.
meeting someone who's like 18, going, yeah, we live on a reservation 6 hours north of here. We drove all the way down. It's my first concert. Like, wow, amazing.
Yeah. 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 What does? Because last time we saw you here in Toronto, it was the Summer of Loud tour, and it was like, you know, all the bands, the who's who of metalcore, if you will, was you guys. Parkway Drive was there, I Prevail was there, Beartooth, I forget a few other ones right now. Um, that was an insane celebration of metalcore. Now with Malevolence and Machine Head, very different bands. What do those bands bring out in you that going on the road with people that are all from the same genre, if you will, doesn't?
Yeah, I think it's more fun, honestly. Summer Live was great, and it was kind of a no-brainer to do, to celebrate bands that are considered similar, even though we're all very different.
Of course.
But I enjoy various genres. I grew up, going to shows in the early '90s where you could go to a show and it would be, a punk band, a grindcore band, a death metal band, a hardcore band, all in the same bill. And I loved that. To me, I wish more shows were like that because it was less about ticket sales and attendance and more about just artists celebrating art. That's where I come from. So I'm very comfortable, and that's why we picked a band like Malevolence. I mean, not only are they different sounding from us, but talk about a killer band that blends what I can only describe as like New York hardcore with like Southern sludge. To me, they're like a mixture of like Crowbar and Madball. They just have this cool sound and a viciousness to them with that sort of British swagger, if you will. And I saw them on the Headbangers Boat, Lamb of God cruise a few years ago, and I was just like, these guys get it. This band is amazing. So to bring them out finally is really cool. And then Machine Head are legends. Rob is, I mean, I grew up listening to Machine Head and sort of the visual of who Rob Flynn was in '94. It was so different from anything that was going on. It was a cool mixture of sort of urban angst and metal prowess. And now he's just turned into like sort of the Godfather sage of, in my opinion, one of the best metal bands out there from those Roadrunner days, as we call them.
Yeah.
He's become a friend, and he's a great songwriter, and it's just an honor. So it's cool to have, people who I consider legends. Rob's a legend, and then the young bloods coming in that are just full of piss and vinegar and ready to throw down. It's exciting. It energizes me on two different platforms, and I like taking out younger bands that are sort of got the buzz, because it makes us work harder. It reminds us, we got to bring our A game no matter what, because these kids are throwing down. So that's what's going to happen on this tour. So if you're listening, don't miss out on Malevolence. If you don't know who they are, get your ass there early and just be ready. It's going to blow your face off.
And nothing will stand in my way.
To wrap us up, fast forward a few weeks. You're standing. You're talking earlier about your pre-show ritual and what you were, what's going through your mind. So you're standing off stage, about to run on in Dawson Creek, middle of nowhere, Canada. What are you still chasing?
Connection. It's that connection of like when we're in the room after that initial wave of adrenaline calms down and I'm very present to it. I'm looking for eyes. I'm watching body language. I want to see who's teary-eyed, who could give a shit, who's in party mode with a beer in their hand, ready to throw down in the pit. I take in all of that, and I work the room with a purpose, with my body language, with my words. I'll smile at certain people. I'll make a badass face at somebody. I'll give horn. So I'm just trying to like pull you in and then engage with you, because the energy I get from the audience is what I'm going to give back. That reciprocation of energy, that's why I do it. It's about the message. It's about the intention. And as somebody who grew up in a home where to serve others is godly, to use the word generically, not specifically, that's kind of what I'm trying to do, is just spread love and awareness and bring people together to have some fun and take a load off and be present with me and us as a band. And in this fast-paced world of division, come together, unite for a little while, and remember we're all humans, humanity first.
There you go. From Thunder Bay to Edmonton in August. Lots of cool Canadian shows where people can come together. We'll put the links to grabbing your tickets in the description of this video. Jesse, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I also really appreciate you guys making that effort of properly touring Canada, even if I'm in Toronto and I get all the bands. It is so cool to see. Not a lot of bands do that. So thank you for that investment of time, and we'll see you when you play Toronto. I think August 10th, but I'll double check.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head. Take your word for it. All right, my friend.
Around those days.
I appreciate it, my friend.